Good afternoon. It's another sweltering day in Hove. The English summer is taking its toll, I think we can say. I'm Father Alexander, and welcome to our 182nd step in our walking tour through the Bible. We're now two-thirds the way through the book of Psalms. We're on the 100th Psalm, Psalm 100 or 101, depending on how you're counting. Now, let's go backwards so we may go forwards a bit better. About 60 years ago, there arose in the church a group of theologians who declared that the relationship between faith and morals was purely accidental. That is to say, our morals do not come from our faith, and our faith does not come from our morals. The two go together, but there's no causal join between the two. So you could lose the faith and still keep your morality. So morality's source, they said, is reason. So the reason, the law of reason, encompasses the whole of morality, and you don't need faith to be moral. Now, this, I think, was a bit of a disaster because while it was true in a sense, and while it drew on the teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas, who said that the Ten Commandments were completely contained within the law of reason, follow your reason, and the natural law. While that might be true, at the same time, to split off faith from reason was to impoverish both. It certainly impoverishes the faith, because what's the point of the faith unless it flows out into good deeds directed at other people? And what's the point of morality for its own sake, unless your morality is a way of pleasing God and serving God? So if you split off faith from reason, the two really don't go together. Both of them are impoverished. So I think that's a disaster to divide faith and reason. To me, they're intimately united, and they are to the author of this psalm as well. However, there's also a mistake in seeing the morality we follow as purely that which is commanded by God. It is commanded by God, but we don't follow it simply because it's commanded by God. God's moral laws are not arbitrary. Now, some Franciscans in the Middle Ages claimed that they were completely arbitrary. So God said to Adam, take a wife, and Adam took a wife called Eve. But God said to Abraham, hey, take another wife, and on top of the wife Sarah, he took the wife Hagar. So if God says, get married twice, be bigamous, or be polygamous, then that's okay. In other words, God can more or less change his mind. It doesn't matter whether you've got one wife or two wives. What matters is whether God gives you permission for one wife at a time or two wives simultaneously. Bit of a problem, that, isn't it? Now, therefore, it is quite a vexed question. How do faith and morality go together? It's never completely simple. I don't want to simplify it or oversimplify it, but maybe this psalm can help. The psalmist starts off, my song is of mercy and justice. I sing to you, O Lord. So he's going to talk about mercy and justice. This is the theme of his poem. I will walk in the way of perfection. O when, Lord, will you come? I'm going to follow the Lord. I'm going to walk in the Lord's ways. Remember, walking is something you do habitually. I'm not just going to assent one off to God's way. I'm going to make God's way my way of life. Now, that is important. Morality is not nodding your head and saying, yes, our God is right on that. Morality is a living out of the law. Morality is a way of life. I will walk with blameless heart within my house. I will not set before my eyes whatever is base. I will hate the ways of the crooked. They shall not be my friends. The false-hearted must keep far away. The wicked I disown. So this guy is going to shun the wicked. He's going to keep away from the ways of the crooked. He's going to set himself apart. That's important. And he's saying, I will not set before my eyes whatever is base. Nowadays, so many people spend so much time, you're doing it right now, I hope, looking at a computer. And this guy is going to say, I'm not going to set before my eyes anything that is base. In other words, when we look at things on the computer, quite often we're drawn to look at what is base. And he's not going to be looking at what is base. He's only going to be looking at what is improving. So he's going to make himself apart. Now, throughout Christian history, there's been this tension, hasn't there, of if we want to live as good Christians, we have to set ourselves apart. It's been criticised as the fortress church mentality, but it's been far more prevalent, as a matter of fact, amongst our Protestant brethren. The most extreme or dramatic example are the Amish in America, who live in America but are in not they're in America, but they're not of America. They don't even speak the language of America. They live completely different lives, completely separate lives. And they don't dress like Americans, they don't speak like Americans, and they don't have any tech. They have everything's low tech. Again, it's true to say that many of our ultra Orthodox Jewish brethren too have made themselves separate through dress and through language. They speak Yiddish and they wear this distinctive Jewish dress. Now, is that what he's saying here? I'm going to the false-hearted must keep far away. The wicked I disown. They should not be my friends. The crooked. Okay, possibly. The man who slanders his neighbour in secret, I will bring to silence. The man of proud looks and haughty heart, I will never endure. That does actually suggest that he's going to have contact with the people he doesn't like, whose behaviour he doesn't like. I look to the faithful in the land, that they may dwell with me. He who walks in the way of perfection shall be my friend. So he's going to shun the sinner, but he's going to welcome the virtuous. So he's seeking to create a community of virtue. That's important too. He's cutting himself off from some people, but he's cleaving to other people. Nicky Gumbel said, the one thing that will keep you a Christian is having Christian friends. And he's completely correct about that. The reason you go to church and the reason you hang out with other people worshipping God is because worshipping God is a communal exercise. Christianity is a communitarian religion. Therefore, we must seek contact with our fellow Christians. And the other thing is, we must seek contact with those who believe the same moral truths that we believe. The reason we do this is because in interacting with these people, we reinforce our moral beliefs and our moral practices. So, for example, if you decide to give up gossip, it would be absolutely wonderful if you could hang out with a whole load of people who've also decided to give up gossip, because then you won't. Your chances of falling into gossiping with your associates will be much less. Again, if you are the sort of person who wants to live a good Christian life and wants to pray, if you hang out with other people who also want to pray and talk about prayer all the time, that is a good thing as well. This is the whole point about monasteries. It is a gathering of like-minded people seeking the same thing and encouraging each other to seek the same thing. No man who practices deceit shall live within my house. No man who utters lies shall stand before my eyes. So once again, we've had this before in the Psalms, lies and deceit are seen as a very serious sin. So is slander, which is another form of lies, being crooked, another form of lying, deceitfulness, and so on, false-hearted. The type of sin he's warding off, the type of sin he's shunning, roughly the same thing, those who are wedded to untruth. And here, of course, we have a particularly modern resonance to this psalm, just as we have, I will not have anything base set before me, which refers clearly or could be taken to refer in the modern context to internet pornography. Here, the shunning of lies is absolutely important. Nowadays, there is a very big movement in the world to get people to believe a whole load of things that are simply not true. So, for example, we're told we must believe that Britain is institutionally racist. We're told we must believe that slavery by British people is a uniquely awful sin. And we must also be told that many of us bear a present responsibility for these things. Now, the Catholic Church does believe in institutional sin. It does believe in structures of sin. But at the same time, these things have to be evaluated using the correct historical tools. There's never been slavery in Britain. Slavery in the British Empire was abolished in sometime in the 1830s. That was some time ago. there is still slavery in many parts of Africa today, in West Africa, and also the slavery in um, Saudi Arabia today. And there's the next thing that's akin to slavery, indentured labor, which is very similar to slavery, where you sell yourself into slavery. That still exists. Now, it's not true that Britain is an institutionally racist country, it seems to me. That needs to be discussed. It needs to be evaluated. Too much of these so-called truths that are put in front of us need to be challenged. And therefore, that is why he's warding off the deceitful and so on and so forth. We have to live in truth. The other thing that is essential to this modern movement is this idea that we're all oppressed. That it's called intersectionality. If you're a woman, well, you're automatically oppressed by men. If you're black or you're brown, you're automatically oppressed by white people. If you're poor, you're oppressed by the rich. And so it goes on. We live in a multi-intersectioned patchwork of oppressions. Again, is this true? It has to be evaluated and it has to be weighed up. The evidence has to be considered. It's simply not enough to declare, I am oppressed, to establish that you are oppressed. A lot of people who claim to be oppressed are anything but oppressed. In fact, they're weaponizing the concept of oppression in order to advance their own political agenda. And again, what do you mean by oppressed? Again, we have to weigh up the words we're using. There are oppressed people on this planet, there's no doubt about that. People who are not properly paid for the jobs they do in certain countries are certainly oppressed. People who can't get an education, who'd like to have an education for a variety of reasons, are certainly oppressed. But oppression as something afflicting 70% of the population of Britain, probably not, I would say. Now, I've already talked for 12 minutes. Morning by morning, I will silence the wicked in the land, says this man, says the psalmist. Why is he going to silence people? Because this is his mission from God. His mission from God is to live in the truth. I will walk in the way of perfection. O Lord, when, O Lord, will you come? Uprooting from the city of the Lord all who do evil. Now, the city of the Lord, this is important. The earthly city and the city of the Lord are the same place. There is no city of God upstairs and a city of this earth down below. The two are the same. The city of the Lord is where we seek the Lord, and that is in the city we live in. To talk of the city of God is an abstraction from the earthly city, but the earthly city and the city of God coexist together on this earth. And therefore, what he's involved in is the transformation, conversion, and purification of the earthly city to make it more what it should be, the city of God. God has called us to live in cities, and he wants us to become his people more and more. Hope that helps. I hope I haven't gone on too long. All the best.